My sister and fellow Americans, my name is Jimmie Estrada and this is my show, and it is also very nice to see you again. When I started this, I wanted to get into helping other handicapped people like myself, so I joined a fine organization called the People's First. So I joined it, and they elected me their representative. So I'm here, when I talk, I'm representing them. This is an organization ran by Barbara Haney. I'm a mentally handicapped man, and I'm in the process of trying to make a film that is going to be the only one of kind, because to my knowledge, I searched for years and there's not anybody else doing this. And this isn't the only film I produce, or I'm working on. I'm also working on I also made a film called The Politicking Timer. The interview with the mayor of Torrance was a real big surprise. In fact, it was shocking. I was shocked because I was expecting in there just to have a meeting to discuss the film. Instead, they started filming it right there. So I got in the process of getting out to making the film right there. But anyways, after it was over, I felt pretty good about myself, and I thought this would make a good contribution to my organization. We discussed the future of the mayor. We discussed the past of the mayor. We discussed where he came from. We talked about Philadelphia and being like a cradle of our civilization. And we talked about the police. He talked about how great the police officers, and I agreed, and I hope to do more research about the police, because there's a lot of controversy about the police nowadays. So I thought the next film would be more about research on that. Would you agree that Torrance police are doing a fine job in serving the city of Torrance?
More than agree. I am very proud of the Torrance Police Department. One of the things that it strikes me is that we are constantly one of the top 20 safest cities in America for cities our size, and that's because of the quality of police work that we receive from our police department. We have some of the best officers, and I truly believe that the hiring process is very difficult for a person to become a member of the police department, and that's because our standards are so high. But I truly believe that every one of them could eventually become the police chief, if not in our city, some other city, because we really need the best police officers. What our city deserves and what our city demands, and I think it's what our citizens expect from us. So I have to agree that they are really a fine police department. As someone who served as a police officer, although many, many years ago, I think I have a different perspective on how to judge them, and my judgment is that they are really, really professional and good, serve our community really well, is because they are very progressive in their thoughts. The current police chief, as well as the previous police chiefs, decided that they wanted to have the police department more commonly reflect the community. So they made an outreach to add more women, more people of color to the police department. And they've been very successful in that, even though the standards are very, very high. Like I said, I would think that probably 200 to 300 people apply for the job for one position before that one person is chosen. So that's the selective process. But they always come up with progressive things to do, and that's an important thing, because there's an old way to do things and there's a new way to do things. One of the things I think is really amazing is that with a large number of homeless people in our community, as well as all the communities. And they came up with a proactive approach to use the community lead officers to actually go out and identify those homeless people, approach them, talk to them as a friend, find out who they are, what their story is, to the best they can, and then try to point them to services. Unfortunately, because some of them have mental health issues or perhaps drug or alcohol issues, they're not receptive to that, but at least we know who the homeless people are. So when we see a new homeless person come in, we can also identify this is somebody different. So I think that is very progressive, and hopefully as we go forward with our new Social Services Commission, we'll be able to actually provide services for the homeless people. Now, the other thing that they do also is mental health. We were one of the first departments in Southern California to actually partner a specialist from the police department, Sergeant Wilkes, with a mental health clinician, a social worker who understands the mental health aspects. And together they, whenever there is a mental health or a suspected mental health issue, then they are called upon to come into the scene to assist the regular patrol officers. But not only do they do that, but they also do training programs for the other police officers, so how they can identify someone who might be going through a psychotic moment, or someone who may be bipolar, or somebody who may be schizophrenic. And they can identify that so that they can treat them appropriately. Although autism is not a mental health issue, identifying someone who has autism is very important for a police officer, because they might not be reacting the way that someone without autism would react. So these are things that our police department does as a regular basis to show a progressive nature of policing. It's not just cops and robbers. It's it's part of the community and being involved in the community, and they do that as well by being members of some of the social organizations, the Rotary, the Kiwanis, so they get to know the business element in our community. But they also involve themselves in the homeowners associations. The Neighborhood Watch is very proactive in our community, and they just love nothing more than to meet with a bunch of the community members and tell them what they do, whether it's a motor officer who's writing tickets for speeders, or it's a parking enforcement officer who's making sure that cars are moved on street sweeping days, or they're not there over 72 hours. And once the community knows this and they have that one-on-one relationship with the police officer, it becomes easier to be a police officer. And that's a community policing that has been around for, about 40 years, but
Okay, tell me a little bit about yourself, sir.
Oh, you got a couple of days. When you get to be as old as I am, there's a lot of history there. I think we can go backwards. I've been the mayor now for 2.5 years, and that's an exciting journey that I've been on. But prior to that, I was a prosecutor for the County of Los Angeles in the child abuse arena. And before that, I was a litigator in civil litigation. And before that, I was a journalist. I wrote for newspapers. I had my undergrads in journalism. And before that, I was a police officer. And even before that, I was in the military after high school. So I'm not originally from California. I'm originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the birthplace of liberty, the cradle of liberty. And I know an awful lot about the history of the revolution and how we became a country. And I guess that's where I have a level of patriotism that I think is indigenous to most of the people in the city of Torrance. That's probably why I wound up here, because I consider Torrance as probably the most patriotic city in all of America. And all you have to do is look at the banners that we have for Armed Forces Day, our Armed Forces Day parade, as well as thinking back on our history of Louis Zamperini. We have a long history of patriotism here. We have a memorial wall on the corner of Maple and Torrance Boulevard for military people who lost their lives fighting for our country. And we have, as I said, the most patriotic city in America. And I really enjoyed being the mayor of such a patriotic city. I guess it was a gravitational pull that got me here.
Do you have any plans for higher office, sir?
This is the highest office I ever want to go to. This is the third floor in City Hall. It's someplace where government works. And I think local government is the best part of government, because I can see people in the supermarket, on the playing fields, at the sports entities, or in the parks, or just walking on the street or shopping in the mall. And they can approach me and tell me, and they certainly do, tell me their problems, where there's a pothole that they don't appreciate, or perhaps a stop sign that they think should be there. And maybe the streets aren't as good as they think they are, or think they should be. So that's why local government is great. When you go to Sacramento, then they can only be here a couple days a week. They have to be in their Sacramento office. If they're in Congress or the Senate, they're in Washington, D.C. most of the time. They come back here on occasion. And you lose that connection. I think local government is the best government. And, you get to meet everybody. You get to know everybody. And it's really, you hate to say it cheapens the job, but it's a lot of fun. It really is a lot of fun getting things done. And there's a saying amongst mayors, and I meet with what we call the Conference of Mayors every year, twice a year, and that's mayors from all over the country, from east to west, north to south. And our slogan is, mayors get things done. So why would I want another office higher than this? I can get things done. Congress, not so much. Sacramento, maybe. But in this job, you can actually make a difference, and you can make a difference that you might see it. And it might take months, maybe years to get it done, or sometimes it's just a couple of days when somebody has their trash wasn't picked up, and I can make a phone call and get their trash picked up. That makes a difference.
What do you suppose your biggest achievement is?
My biggest achievement, I think it's my outreach to the community. I've done town halls throughout the community, which is sort of like a State of the City address, but it's to the residents as opposed to the businesses. And then I've gone out to each high school government class since I've been in office, and I teach a class. In fact, next week I'll be at West High teaching 6 classes, 52 minutes of the same subject matter, explaining this to them how Torrance government works and how it plays in with the state government and the federal government that they're learning about, and how it's different. And much of what I just said, that it gives an opportunity for local government where you can see the mayor or council member, clerk or treasurer in the supermarket, and you can actually question them right then and there. And we have our meetings here, public, where they can come in there as well. So I think my greatest is my outreach, and you try to meet everybody, but we have a pretty big city, 150,000 people, and there are some people who are just not receptive to that. They'd rather be in the background, make complaints, complain about things, but they don't want to actually be involved in the change process. So I think it's outreach is the most important thing. So far I've talked to more than 4,000 students in our high schools. I think that's a tremendous achievement. I look forward to doing it again next year as well.
Mm-hmm. Lastly, what are your plans for the future?
Well, my plans for the future is to find an appropriate owner of the Toyota property, to see, I think really good things are going to happen there. We will miss Toyota terribly when they leave. They were really a great community partner for 32 years. They're ingrained in our community. The T in Torrance is similar to the T in Toyota. They put their mark here on buildings, on playing fields. But now we're going into this next chapter of Torrance. They're going to be moving out by the end of this year, and some new entity is going to come in there. And that's an exciting thing, to be able to usher in a new chapter. Whatever is going to be there is going to be very, very exciting. It's not going to turn into, as I say, it's not going to be a cornfield or a bean field. They're not going to turn it into an agricultural site. It's going to be something 21st century, whether it's an industry that is something to do with the future, or it's going to be an industry that is coming from another country or another culture, or whether it's an industry that brings in a corporate mentality that's different than Toyota but similar to Toyota in other ways. The mystery is what's going to be there, and I look forward to bringing them in here. I think that's going to be exciting. My pleasure, Jimmy. Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for thinking about me. Appreciate that.
What other activities do you take part in, Jimmie, other than movie making?
Well, I take place in going to my city hall meetings and checking on what the city is doing, and I have planned on going over there the next meeting and maybe to talk about creating smokeless apartments, which I did before, but I plan on doing that again. I also have this idea of going to the Civic Center and talking to them about having homeless clean up the community, because we have a lot of homeless there, and I thought, well, if we put them to work, maybe they could clean up the community, and in return we'll give them free meals at the Civic Center. They could do lots of interesting things. Like, for instance, I noticed one time near a train station, there's this low power plant, and there's this homeless woman sitting there outside the power plant. I was thinking, you know, if she worked for the city, she could be like, the city could give her a little cell phone, so she could call somebody if somebody's tampering with it, because she's there 24 hours a day, just sitting there, looking at the power station, the little power plant. I hope everything turns out well, but really not for me. I hope it turns out well for other handicapped people who are that I hope will benefit somehow by this film that I'm trying to produce. For them and for all the handicapped people in the country, if not the world. That's it. That's what I want. That's what I'm striving for.